Hi, Kayla. You came all the way from the US and you're from Hypebeast.
Yes.
Would you start off with giving a short introduction to yourself and the work that you do?
Yes. My name is Kayla Curtis Evans. I am a creative editor with Hypebeast. I work on the branded content side, so I get to do a lot of client-facing work and brand-facing work, whether it's helping them create campaigns or photo shoots or video content. I do a lot of interviews as well, so I really enjoy talking to new people and learning about what they do. And in that sense, my job is kind of different every day, and I think that that's my favorite part of it, as well as brand discovery, which is something that I get to do while here with CIFF as well.
Amazing. And you're here during Copenhagen Fashion Week.
Yes.
It has just been said that it is like the 5th most important fashion week of the world.
Yeah.
We're very proud of.
Yeah.
You being part of like so many different fashion communities, and what do you think stands out about the Danish Fashion Week?
This is now my second time coming to Copenhagen Fashion Week, and I've always been a fan of Danish style in general, just because I think the style codes are so unique to this region. But as far as the Fashion Week itself, I think it's largely impactful on a global scale. I think that a lot of fashion weeks have a lot to learn from this one.
For Danish brands who aspire to engage with an American audience, what would you recommend? What would you say would be the right things to do?
I think that, a lot of American press getting to come here and see the value in these brands in the Fashion Week is very important. That's why I feel lucky that I've gotten to do so. I was lucky enough to spend some time in Copenhagen before I came for Fashion Week, so I kind of already had a soft spot for the city, but getting to come here and see the brands and see how well run the Fashion Week is as well, I think really is what inspired me to dive more into Danish brands and learn about them and learn about their practices and how they could be adopted into other fashion weeks. But as far as engaging, people beyond Copenhagen, I think the number one thing is getting people in those seats and getting them to see things firsthand. But I also think that a lot of the work is done on its own. I think that it's interesting. I was talking to someone yesterday, a Danish friend who wasn't sure of the impact of Danish brands outside of Copenhagen. And I mean, Pinterest boards in the US are full of Scandi style inspiration. I think that American girls really look to this kind of effortless style that really permeates the Fashion Week here and just the general street style beyond Fashion Week. There's a sense of effortless style, like I said, but also an attention to detail at the same time that is just quite different than the style codes in the US. So I think that a lot of eyes are already on this scene beyond Fashion Week, just, looking to what Scandinavian Danish girls are wearing on the day-to-day. And I can see some of those style codes starting to kind of replicate themselves in the US as well. So it's really cool to be here and see the origin.
Yeah, because it's so interesting. You would make different style choices. In Denmark, we bike a lot. Like, a lot of everywhere on your bike or by foot, whereas in the US where you have larger, like you need a cars everywhere. But still there's some trends that can travel.
Yeah.
What trends have you seen this season that you think could work?
Well, you make a great point about function. I think a lot of trends here originate based on function. When I was living here years back, I thought it was so interesting that people even had shoe covers for the rain boots. It's so smart though. It's like, we don't bike everywhere in New York, but why would you want your cute boots to get wet? So that's something I think everyone could learn from. But as far as trends I've seen this time around, I've seen a lot of workwear interpreted through a more casual lens.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really cool. I think that that's something that we'll start to see, kind of circulating beyond here when it comes to fun ties being incorporated into looks. Something else that I was really enthusiastic about seeing on runways was, and this is something that I think you always see this kind of sense of playfulness with Danish fashion, but saw a lot of colored tights. And I was very excited about that this season because I actually kind of predicted that tights would, tights have always been, it's a function-based trend.
Yeah.
But I think the really bright, colorful tights, the printed tights, the lace tights, I saw them come down multiple runways this season. So that's a big trend that we'll be seeing, I think.
Yeah, and that you don't want, like, you want to stay warm, but you don't want to have to disguise the fact that you need to stay warm.
You don't like sacrifice your mini skirt. And I understand that. That's something, I love a skirt. So that's something that I'm on board with the tights for sure. But yeah, I think just this idea of marrying function with this idea of personal flair is something that I think has always characterized Danish fashion, but I especially saw that coming down runways this season. Lots of hats, lots of fun hats.
Amazing.
So just little touch points that I think are very unique to the style codes here, but I could see being kind of replicated or interpreted in different ways beyond this city.
There's so much of our lives that take place in the digital world, and we're like always like attached to our phones. Why is it still so important that we have the physical meetup, like at CIFF, where you can like actually go out and meet the brand, try on the gloves or feel the shirt? Why is that still important?
I think that brand discovery in general is so important, and that's something that CIFF, that's what characterizes CIFF, is getting to bring people and in front of these brands to feel the quality of the fabrics, to really see how pieces move on the body. If it's a shoe, you can feel how the traction feels when you put the shoe on. These things are so important. I know that, like you mentioned, we do live in this hyper digitized world, and a lot of people prefer to online shop, and I understand the convenience, but when it comes to quality, and that's something that I think there is never a lack of attention to when it comes to Danish fashion. Quality is important. There's an attention to detail when it comes to textiles, and we talked about sustainability. So a big factor of that is longevity, and I think that a lot of the brands here really think about that when they're producing. They want these pieces to be able to last, and I think in that sense, it's important to be able to have in person eyes on these products, to feel them, because you can really see how far the brands went to assure that, those textiles are long-lasting, great quality, thicker textiles. And also just getting to interact with people from the brand, I think is so important, especially for me as an editor. I mentioned I like to do a lot of interviews. That's really important to me. I feel like if I'm learning about a brand, it's just as important to learn about the people involved in the brand, because it tells me so much about why certain decisions were made within the brand. Founder journeys are super interesting to me. I think it informs you a lot about like why certain things look or feel the way that they do.
Yeah, and also why they appeal to you. Like very often there's a value set that just resonates with you as a person.
Right.
For many years, it was like conventional thinking, or whenever there was like a financial crisis or a crisis of politics, you would either go super cheap or super luxe. Like that would be like the way. So you would have like ultra fast fashion or like ultra luxe.
Right.
And most Danish brands are obviously mid-market, but also we're seeing like the consumers might be thinking differently. Do you think that we are reaching, and this might be a leading question, but do you think that we're entering a new space where we'd rather have fewer items that resonate with our ethics than, a full-on like bold logo bag or like an ultra like cheap, fastly produced? Like where do you see the journey is headed?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that this is an ongoing conversation, and it's always shifting, as you said it. And I think it's really interesting, like you mentioned, to look to fashion as a marker of, the economic status or whatever's going on in the world. Fashion is an echo chamber of that.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so much bigger than just like clothes coming down a runway.
Oh, yeah. And it's so insulting when people say it's just clothing.
Yeah.
It's like, this is one thing, everyone wears clothes.
Right. It's the necessity for everyone, number one. It's a means of creative expression. But like you said, it says so much about what might be going on at the time in the world. And, we talked a lot about like quiet luxury in the last couple of years. And I think for some people that opened a door where it signaled people wanting more meaningful items, but less of those items, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
And then I think this year we entered kind of this era of maximalism again, where people wanted to self-express. We came out of the pandemic and everyone was kind of cooped up, and then we got to this point where things kind of stabilized a little bit and people were out and about and wanting to put on their colorful, fun outfits. I don't think that means that we strayed from that notion of still wanting to be really considerate and conscious about our purchases. Maybe I just speak from personal experience, but as I've gotten older, that's become way more important to me.
Yeah.
I also have learned more about these processes, the practices that this industry adopts. And I think it's extremely important to me to just make sure that my purchasing decisions are more informed. I would rather have a few high quality pieces, like you mentioned, than a bunch of fast fashion pieces.
Yeah.
That's very important to me. I hope that could echo beyond, editors, buyers, just people within the industry and into wider markets, but we'll see. I think it's a work in progress, and I think that we're getting there, but education is important, and conversations like this are important so that people can learn what they prefer and learn how important their purchasing power is as well.
Yeah, because actually, like, very often people feel sort of like, oh, it's out of my hands, or like I can't really change anything.
Right.
And then there might also, like, if a lot of us, we love fashion, we love clothes, but we feel sort of guilty about this love, or it's something that should be contained. If you could give like one piece of style fashion advice sum up that's both like has a sense of like sustainability but also a sense of fun, what would that be?
This is a big question.
Yeah.
Because I think that there are so many answers. There's so many bits of advice I could give to people. I would say I'll answer it in a few parts based on the way that I shop, which has shifted a lot over the years.
And what kind of shopper did you used to be?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I would just buy anything and everything that piqued my interest. And usually what piqued my interest were just trends. And, I think as a bit of advice to kind of start off, there's nothing wrong with following a trend if it's something that you're interested in. But I think the number one most important thing I would say when you're shopping, and it sounds so simple, it's like, duh, what? Like, of course. But I would say make sure you're shopping for yourself, because it's really hard to not be influenced by.
And it is actually a profound, like, thing to post, because for a lot of people it's not easy.
No, I think that we're so easily influenced. We mentioned this hyper digital age. We're easily influenced by what we see on our timelines, our Pinterest boards, our Instagram feeds. We see so many different fashion influencers emerging, and what you have to remember is that these tastemakers or influencers are gifted a lot of items, and there's nothing wrong with that. But as the average consumer, the average shopper, I think that you should make sure that you're buying something because you really want it, because it's really something that you will continue to wear, because it's something that fits within your personal aesthetic, rather than, well, I saw this thing on Instagram, this person that I really like is wearing it, I don't even know if it's my style, but I know it's on trend, so I want it. I used to be that shopper where every new trend that emerged, I just wanted to be kind of a part of it.
Yeah.
And even if I knew like this isn't really my thing, I would adopt these things, incorporate them into my wardrobes, and they would stay there for maybe not even a year.
Yeah.
So I think, as on top of making sure you're purchasing for yourself, that goes hand in hand with maybe just considering longevity when you purchase an item. How many times do you think you'll wear it? Is it something that when you imagine the rest of your closet, you can see it kind of seamlessly incorporating with the pieces that you already have? And of course, like I mentioned, I'm a maximalist dresser for sure. There's nothing wrong with the statement piece, but I think that you need to know how to balance out those types of pieces with essentials in your wardrobe. I think the most important thing when you shop is just making sure that it's something that you will reach for more than once, more than twice. And that's something that I've been very much, it's a work in progress for me personally as well, but it's something that I've definitely improved upon within the last few years. And I thrift shop a lot. So I guess my third bit of advice would be that if you really are someone who you really want to partake in these trends, that's okay, but maybe find some more conscious ways to do so. Thrift shopping to me is like the most fun treasure hunt ever.
Oh yeah,
and you
sure.
can find most of the current trends in your local thrift shop. It's going to take some time and some effort, but if you really want to recreate a look, I would say start there. And if you're someone who wants to invest in a piece that is, from a more prestigious and more expensive house or label, then I would say there's nothing wrong with that. But make sure it's something that you really will value and wear for more than just one season cycle.
Amazing. Thank you so much for the wonderful advice, and thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me, and excited to explore some more of Copenhagen.
Well, have fun doing it.
Thank you.
Thank you.